Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn about the first topic of our biology, that is nutrition, the food supplying system. So let us learn about that. First, let us talk about the caption of the lesson, food supplying system. So food, first we have to know about food. So let us take the earth and the planet where we are living. So here different types of organisms are living. So from simple unicellular organisms to complex multicellular organisms like human beings are living on this earth. And all these organisms need food for their survival, right? So every organism needs food for their survival. Yes. So what is the necessity of the food? Yes, every organism is surviving just because of their energy. Yes, if they are doing any work, yes, they need some energy to do that work. Yes, so from where do they get energy? Whatever the organism you take, that needs some energy. And from where those organisms get that energy? By eating food. By eating food they'll get energy. Yes, so here what is the necessity of food here? Yes, the food is required for every organism for and repair growth and repair, as well as for maintaining body temperature. Yes, so what is nutrition here? So let us define the nutrition: the process of intake and utilization of the nutrients by an organism is called as a nutrition, right? So the nutrients, whatever the food that you are eating, that should contain nutrients, proper nutrients in that. What are the nutrients that we have already discussed in our lower classes, like in 7th class and 8th class? In that we discussed about the nutrients that are needed for our body: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, water. Yes, like this all the nutrients should be involved in the food, then only it will be useful to our body, and that helps in growth of the body and repair of the body. Yes, so what does it mean by growth of the body and repair of the body? How does the food help in growth and repair of the body? Yes, if you take a newborn, yes, the newborn will be fed with proper nutrients, then the baby will be grown. Yes, so there is a growth. So for the growth of any organism, the food is needed. And if you have got an illness anytime, yes, and you will be suggested by the doctor to eat a proper food, a nutritious food, yes, then you'll be recovered from the illness. So repair is nothing but recovering from the illness. Yes, so for your growth of the body and for the growth as well as for the repair, the food is needed. And one more thing is that it is needed for the maintenance of body temperature, for maintaining body temperature. Yes, so if you take for example the human beings, we are the human beings, and we maintain our body temperature, a stable body temperature and a constant body temperature we maintain. What is that? 37 degrees centigrade or 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. So that temperature we maintain. Yes, so to maintain that temperature every time we need some food. Yes, and that you will be learned in a respiration topic. Yes, how the body temperature will be maintained by food. Yes, so the food is necessary for every organism for growth and repair of the organism and to maintain body temperature. Yes, so here the food will be taken by different organisms in different forms. Just let us take different types of organisms here. Yes, they acquire the food in different modes. Yes, marine organisms are there, terrestrial organisms are there, different types of organisms are there. Yes, they acquire the food in different modes. So based on the mode of acquiring the food, the organisms are classified into two types. Those are autotrophic organisms and heterotrophic organisms, and the mode of nutrition followed by them is autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. That means based on the mode of acquiring the food, the nutrition is classified into two types, that is autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. So autotrophic nutrition is nothing but just the name itself indicates. Auto means self. Auto means self, and troph means nourishment. Troph means nourishment. That means self-nourishing organisms. That means they prepare their food of their own. Yes, those are autotrophic organisms. They do not depend on any other. Yes, they prepare their food by using the simple inorganic substances present in the atmosphere, just like carbon dioxide, water, and minerals available in the soil. Yes, by taking all these, they prepare their own food. Yes, so can we prepare our food if we are provided with carbon dioxide, water, and minerals from the soil? Yes, just you go and stand in the soil and you will get sunlight. Yes, carbon dioxide and water will be poured on you, and will you prepare the food? Can we do that? It is impossible. That is why we are categorized under heterotrophic organisms. We are categorized under heterotrophic organisms. That means the organisms which cannot prepare their own food and depend on other organisms for their food needs. Yes, those are categorized as heterotrophic organisms, and the mode of nutrition followed by them is heterotrophic nutrition. Yes, first for the autotrophic nutrition, the examples are plants, green plants, and some photosynthetic bacteria like cyanobacteria. And for heterotrophic nutrition, the human beings and all other animals which are dependent on plants. Yes, and some of the organisms are dependent on animals. Yes, the carnivores, and eventually those organisms, those animals are dependent on plants. So directly or indirectly, we are totally dependent on plants, right? So here let us see the types of heterotrophic nutrition. Yes, so there are mainly these three types of heterotrophic nutrition. Those are holozoic nutrition, parasitic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition, right? So holozoic nutrition, just for example, take human beings. Yes, we take the food and we eat it first. We eat the total food, and inside our body it will be digested. It will be broken down into simpler parts. Yes, then it will be absorbed into our body. Yes, so that is holozoic nutrition. Yes, taking the total food and digesting inside the body. Yes, next example are human beings. Next, parasitic nutrition. Parasitic nutrition means, so the organisms, some of the organisms are there. Yes, they do not prepare their own food. Yes, so those are heterotrophic, and they depend on other organisms and they absorb the digested food from that organism, from the host. Yes, they always present as guests. Yes, so parasites are guests for every other organism, every other host. Yes, let us take Cuscuta, leech, tapeworm. Yes, they don't kill the organisms, but they get the food from those organisms. They absorb the food from those organisms. Those are parasitic organisms and parasitic nutrition. And next, saprophytic nutrition. Saprophytic nutrition, let us take yeast and bread mold, mushrooms. Yes, these are all, they grow on dead and decaying matter. Dead and decaying matter, they break down the food outside their body, and after that they absorb. Yes, and these are also called as, these saprophytes are also called as scavengers or recyclers also, right? Plants are the autotrophic organisms. Yes, they utilize the simple inorganic substances present around them, and they convert them into complex organic substances. That means they are the universal food providers. Plants are the universal food providers because directly or indirectly all the animals and all the organisms are dependent on plants. So here we need nutrients for our survival. Yes, and what do they need? What about the nutrition of the plants? Yes, we are saying that they produce the food. How do they produce the food? How do they produce the food? Yes, so what are the nutrients that they require and what are the raw materials that they require? They follow a process called photosynthesis. First, the C.B. Van Neel was a scientist in 1931. He gave the simple equation for photosynthesis. Before giving an equation for the photosynthesis, he worked on purple sulfur bacteria. Those bacteria are utilizing hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide, and they are producing their food materials, and they are evolving sulfur. One general equation has given. So what is the general equation here? 2H2A plus CO2, 2H2A plus CO2 gives rise to 2A plus CH2O plus H2. So this is the general equation he has given. Yes, let us apply this general equation to purple sulfur bacteria. In case of purple sulfur bacteria, he is given 2H2S. So they are using H2S as a primary compound, H2S as a primary compound, and carbon dioxide they are using, and they are producing elemental sulfur and CH2O carbohydrates and water. CH2O carbohydrates, so carbon material, carbon, and water, carbohydrate. CH2O is the carbohydrate, which is a food material, right? So here let us observe this equation. Let us observe the first equation here. So in this, H2A is converted into A, right? H2A is converted into A. In this, what happened here? H2A, if you take this compound, in this hydrogen is present and it is A. For example, let us take this A, and this compound has lost hydrogen. This compound has lost hydrogen and converted to A. Yes, it has lost its hydrogen. Yes, loss of hydrogen or addition of oxygen, we call it as a oxidation reaction, right? That we learned in the chemistry of 9th class. Here carbon dioxide, let us take, in this there is no hydrogen. CO2 is there is no hydrogen in this. Yes, so this is converted to CH2O. Yes, so the last H2 hydrogen is added to carbon dioxide. That means carbon dioxide is reduced to carbohydrate, so reduction. H2S is converted to sulfur. Hydrogen sulfide is converted to sulfur by losing hydrogen. So what is this? Oxidation, and carbon dioxide is converted to carbohydrate. So this is reduction. So oxidation process and reduction process both are happening in this reaction. And if you define that if in a reaction oxidation as well as reduction both are taking place, then we call that reaction as redox reaction. So in plants also a reaction is happening, a reaction is taking place, and they are also following a process which is similar to the process which is followed by purple sulfur bacteria. So he applied the same reaction and he applied the same thing to the plants. So just here we can take 2H2O plus CO2, that gives rise to O2 plus CH2O plus H2. Is it similar? Yes. So in this also water is oxidized to oxygen, yes, and carbon dioxide is reduced to carbohydrates. So from water oxygen is released, not from the carbon dioxide. Yes, so this is the simple equation given by C.B. van Niel. And with this equation, he defined the photosynthesis as the light dependent redox reaction in which an oxidizable compound reduces an oxidizable compound like water reduces carbon dioxide to cellular materials. So what is happening here? Oxidizable compound, which is water is undergoing oxidation, and it is reducing carbon dioxide to carbohydrates and it is reducing carbon dioxide to carbohydrates, and oxygen is released. Oxygen is released. So this is the simple equation given by C.B. van Niel, and he stated one more thing. Yes, he has given one more statement. What is that? For every molecule of carbohydrates formed, one molecule of oxygen and one molecule of water will be formed. Yes, so this was given by C.B. van Niel. So the first photosynthetic equation was given by C.B. van Niel in 1931. This is the simple equation given by C.B. van Niel. Simple equation for photosynthesis. Yes, water and carbon dioxide are utilized by plants in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, and they form carbohydrates, oxygen and water. Yes, oxygen is released from water but not from the carbon dioxide, he said, but he did not have a proper experimentation for that, proper proof for that. Then it was later proved experimentally by Robert Hill. Robert Hill, he proved that oxygen in photosynthesis is released only from water but not from carbon dioxide. Right? So then Robert Hill modified the photosynthetic equation as, this is the modified form of photosynthetic equation. So in this is the glucose, very simple sugar. So it is a simple carbohydrate. So what is the simplest carbohydrate? Glucose. What is the complex carbohydrate? Starch. Right? Okay. So here this is the modified form of photosynthetic equation given by Robert Hill. So here plants not only produce carbohydrates, just here plants produce carbohydrates, so that we have indicated in this equation. But plants not only produce carbohydrates, they also produce proteins, lipids. Lipids are nothing but we call fats and lipids, both are same. Yes, so like that different types of food materials that we need will be produced by plants. So far we discussed about the photosynthesis process. So in the process of photosynthesis, carbohydrates are nothing but the starch will be produced. So where the photosynthesis takes place? In leaves, because the chlorophyll is present inside the leaves itself. Yes, the chlorophyll traps the sunlight and that sunlight will be utilized to combine water and carbon dioxide to produce carbohydrates. Right? So here, according to the photosynthesis and C.B. van Niel's equation and Robert Hill's equation, in photosynthesis process, carbohydrates will be produced. So as the more number of carbohydrates are produced, that will be converted into starch. Yes, so we have to test whether in photosynthesis process the starch is producing or not. Yes, so by this activity we can test for the starch, for the presence of starch in leaves. So for that, what do we need? First we should place a tripod stand, and on that we should place a wire gauge, and on that we should place the beaker with the water, and it should be first heated. First the water should be heated for some extent. Water should be heated for some extent by using a Bunsen burner. Next, let us take a leaf, freshly plugged leaf, a delicate leaf we have to take. We should not take a hard leaf, a delicate leaf we should take. Yes, so the leaf is taken, a delicate leaf is taken, and now we are going to test the presence of starch in this leaf. Yes, so then we know that how to test for starch. From 7th class we have learned that if you place iodine on the starch powder, if you take and if you add iodine for that, then that will be converted into blue or black color. Yes, and we can take this green leaf, and on that also if we pour iodine solution, then it will be converted into blue or black. Yes, can we test in that simple manner? No, we should not, and we cannot test in that manner. So because it contains the green color, it has green color, and if we pour iodine on that, it converts into blue or black color. If it contains starch in it, resultant color will be interrupted. So that is why we cannot test directly by pouring iodine on the leaf. So we have to follow some process. Yes, first we have to remove the color from the leaf. The green color from the leaf should be removed. For that, what we have to do? We should take the leaf. It should be boiled first. Should be boiled first in the hot water. Just for some time, it should be boiled in the hot water. Then it should be taken. The leaf should be taken and it should be placed in a test tube or a boiling tube. It should be placed in a boiling tube in which we have taken methylated spirit. Okay, so we have taken a test tube, and in that we have poured methylated spirit or alcohol also. Yes, either if you have an alcohol, you can use that, or methylated spirit if you have, and you can use that. Yes, either alcohol or methylated spirit can be poured in this, and this leaf should be placed inside the test tube. So the leaf should be placed inside the test tube. Leaf should be placed inside the test tube, and the leaf should immerse completely inside the test tube. Yes, the leaf should be immersed completely inside the test tube, inside the methylated spirit, and place this methylated spirit containing test tube in or boiling tube in this water bath. In this water bath. Yes, then let it boil for some time. Let it boil for some time. Then if you, and after a few minutes, if you take this test tube outside or boiling tube outside, yes, and you can remove the leaf from the test tube by using a brush. Yes, then you will observe inside the test tube, the methylated spirit will be converted into green color. Methylated spirit will be converted into green color. Yes, and the leaf will be converted into pale color. That means we have removed the green color from the leaf. We have removed the green color from leaf, and let us take the pale colored leaf in a petri dish. Pale colored leaf in a petri dish, and pour iodine. Pour iodine solution, drop by drop on it, and after a few minutes, then we can observe that the leaf will be converted into blue color or dark blue color or black color. So that indicates that conversion of conversion of green color leaf into blue color or black color indicates the presence of starch in it. So so far we have learned that photosynthesis can be done in plants, and carbohydrates will be produced, starch will be produced. That means food materials will be produced in photosynthesis. And what are the materials required for photosynthesis? So what are the factors or materials essential for photosynthesis? Yes, can you say that simply by using CB1-Niels equation? Yes, if you see that there is carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, chlorophyll. Yes, so these are the essential factors for photosynthesis. The relation between water and photosynthesis. So this relation between water and photosynthesis was first established by Van Helmont. Van Helmont, that we have discussed in our class 7th. Van Helmont, he conducted an activity. Before Van Helmont's experiments, the people believed that whatever the plants getting their mass, so they are getting their complete mass from the soil itself. He didn't believe that. He didn't believe, and he conducted this activity. He conducted this experiment. He took one potted plant, and he weighed the mass of soil. Then this was just 500 grams. Let us take 500 grams of soil he has taken in this pot, and he covered it with a polythene sheet, and he made some holes for this. For pouring water, and he weighed the mass of the plant, the small plant, right? Yes, he weighed the mass of the plant also, and it was just 100 grams weight. It was just 100 grams weight. Then he placed it in sunlight. He placed it in sunlight, and daily he used to water it. Daily he used to water the potted plant. Yes, after few months, after some time, then the plant has grown. Then he observed that then he measured the mass of soil present in the pot. It was just 490 grams. 490 grams of soil is there. That means just 10 grams of soil is reduced in this. And he weighed the mass of the plant also, mass of the grown plant. It was 400 grams. It was 400 grams. Yes, so from this we can observe that the plants are not only, the plants are getting their mass, the plants are getting their nutrients not only from the soil but also from other things. So there is the first relation between water and photosynthesis was first established by Van Helmont in this activity, through this activity, right? So with this we can say that the plants are not getting their complete nutrients not only from the soil but also from other factors, right? So what are those other factors? Water. Next, the relation between air and photosynthesis. So what is the relation between air and photosynthesis? So this was established by a scientist called Priestley, Joseph Priestley. From 1770 he did a series of experiments, and in 1774 he discovered oxygen. But he didn't call it as oxygen. Just he said that some gas is necessary for the survival of animals, as well as that is necessary for the burning of things, for the flame. Yes, so and then later it was named as oxygen by Lavoisier in 1775. In 1774 Priestley discovered oxygen, but he didn't name it, but the name was given by Lavoisier in 1775. Okay, then let us discuss about the experiment done by Priestley. Yes, so it is called as bell jar experiment. First he has taken a transparent bell jar and he inserted a transparent candle, inserted a lighting candle inside that. Yes, after some time what will be happen? The candle will be extinguished. It goes off. The candle flame goes off. Yes, as we know that air present inside this is completed. That means air required for burning has been completed. Yes, then he inserted, after that, and for the next time he inserted a mouse in it. A living mouse he inserted into the bell jar. Yes, he lifted the bell jar and he lighted the candle again, and he inserted a mouse into that bell jar, and he closed it again. Yes, then he was observing that. After some time, what happened here? In the same way, the candle has extinguished, the flame goes off, and this mouse used to suffocate. It started suffocating, and just it will be dead. If it is continued for some time, it will be dead. Just like that, it was suffocating. It was unable to breathe. The mouse was unable to breathe. Then he concluded that, so here in this bell jar there is some component of air is present, which is responsible for burning of the candle and for the survival of the mouse. Then along with this time inserted the mouse again, and he inserted the candle again. Along with these two, he placed a mint plant inside that, and he started observing that. Yes, this time there is no extinguishing of candle, and the mouse did not suffocate. In this time. Yes, that means he observed that. So in the previous case, what happened? Candle goes off, the flame of candle goes off, and mouse started suffocating. But here there is no, the there is no extinguishing of a candle. That means the candle continues to burn. At the same time, mouse is also not suffocating. What happened here? The gases exchange is taking place. Yes, with this activity, we can confirm that the gas exchange is taking place. That means what is the gases exchange here? Yes, mint plant is providing certain gas which will be taken up by the mouse as well as by the burning candle, and here it is cleaning up the gas which is released by the mouse also. Yes, so there is a gases exchange taking place. Yes, with this what we can confirm? There is a relation between air and photosynthesis. Through the photosynthesis process, what the plants are doing, they are releasing a gas which is necessary for the survival of all the animals and for the burning process. Yes, so the gas which is necessary for the survival of all the animals, and that will be used for burning. Right? Yes, so here this relation between air and photosynthesis was established by Joseph Priestley. Just here how they are exchanging the gas. So plants need carbon dioxide and they release oxygen. So how the gas exchange takes place? So here if you take a leaf, the leaf contains a numerous number of minute pores at the bottom of the leaf. At the bottom surface there are minute pores or minute holes on the leaf, which are called as stomata, through which the gases exchange takes place. And this is it. In the next class we will discuss about the carbon dioxide and photosynthesis, and light and photosynthesis, and the remaining factors which are necessary for photosynthesis we will discuss in the next class.